I always like to start these webinars with a thought for the day. And before we get stuck into that, I just want to throw in our usual disclaimer. You'll have heard this from us before if you've joined us, that the information in this educational webinar is general in nature and no substitute for tailored advice specific to your particular circumstances. And once we've got the little bit of small print out of the way, I'd just like to say thanks to Richard for helping me out today. It's always great to have somebody else from my team able to answer your questions as we go and just to keep me on track. So my thought for the day, it's critical that kids start to learn the value of money, short-term and long-term savings and budgeting at an early age. Let's have a think about that. So it's something that we really want as parents, if you're parents or if you've got maybe nephews, nieces or other children in your life somewhere. We really want them to grow up with a good feeling around money. And some of us were really never taught these things as children. Either we didn't have great money role models or nobody really talked to us about them at all. And the thing I want to really bring home is it's never too late to learn this stuff. So even if you feel like you've got to a certain stage in your life and you ought to have got this stuff under control, let's leave the judgment at the door, I think. That's really why we're here today. It's to help you to really get control of the situation that you're in. And you may have some really great controls in place and you just want to make them slightly better, or you may feel totally at sea when it comes to talking about money. You'd be amazed at how many people I talk to on a day-to-day basis who are really terrified by this bit, the personal budgeting side. So the aim of today is to take some of that terror away from it, if you do have that. It's to have a little bit of fun with the personal budget and to really help you feel like you've got some control back here. This pandemic has really highlighted some gaps in the business community's financial awareness skills, and we've seen a lot of this come out over the past few months. The best place to start in terms of growing these skills is with ourselves. We really believe in personal development at Panthera. And we want to treat it just like we would when we were trying to help our kids with this sort of stuff. So even I've gone back to basics. I'm an accountant and I still need to remind myself about these basics all the time. So I've been doing some personal budgeting for myself, and that's something that just I let slip during the crisis. We had other things to keep our minds on, but it feels like now coming into autumn, it's a really good sort of beginning of the new school year time to be thinking about this. Sometimes as accountants, we tend to focus more on business budgets and forecasts, and that's what people often come to ask us about. And we sometimes let the personal budgeting aspects of financial management go into the background, but we get loads of questions from clients about their personal spending, something along the lines of, oh, did I really spend all that much last year? And did I really draw all that kind of money out of the business? Where did it all go? So having good financial awareness skills starts with having this personal budget in place. So the agenda for today, so we're going to cover a number of things, and the aim is to get this all done within the hour. So hopefully it'll just fit into your lunch break. So it's a little bit of a challenge. Let's see how we do. The agenda is to understand what we mean by personal budgeting. Secondly, to cover the obvious as well as the quite unexpected benefits of having a personal budget. The third thing is the key elements of that personal budget. The fourth is how to complete your personal budget using our free template, which we're going to make available to you at the end of this session as a self-help option for you. The fifth thing is how to create an accountability structure so that you stick to your budget as much as possible. The sixth one is what your next steps are as a result of what you've learned in this webinar. The seventh bit is what support we can offer to those people who don't want to do it on their own. And yet, of course, you can send your questions in as you go along. We'll answer questions all at the end of the webinar as part of our Q&A. So what is a personal budget? A personal budget is a finance plan that allocates future personal income towards expenses, savings and debt repayment. Firstly, it's a personal budget. Its purpose and form is quite different to the budget you create for your business. Secondly, a personal budget is not just something you create and then tuck in a bottom drawer. It's an actionable plan that, if you follow it, will help you achieve financial and lifestyle goals. And that's really, really important. Lots of people go through the hard work of creating these things and then they just forget about them. Don't put your plan in the bottom drawer. And lastly, your personal budget is forward facing for a 12-month period, and it's broken down into months. So unlike lots of accounting that's done at the end of the year and you look backwards, this is all about what's going to happen in the future. It allocates your future personal income, including your salaries, your drawings, your dividends, for anything else that comes out of the business. And then it allocates those towards personal expenses, savings, investments, and the reduction of personal debt. Put really simply, a personal budget is a plan that lays out how you will spend and save money. So there are many benefits of having a personal budget. Some of these are obvious and are financially focused. Others are focused on reducing stress and improving communication with your significant others. The value in having more control of your financial future cannot be underestimated. Focusing on your budget brings your focus to something you can have real control over. And I think just at the moment when feeling like you've got control is quite difficult, with so much changing in the outside landscape, both economically and perhaps in your business, alongside everything else that's going on this year, feeling like you've got some control of your finances can be a very grounding and settling experience. As I said at the beginning of this session, personal budgeting helps you focus on your money goals and creates a better awareness of where your money is going. A common comment we get from clients when they look at their annual accounts and see their personal drawings figures is, we can't possibly have spent that much money last year. If you've ever had that thought, don't worry, you're in really good company. I hear it from lots and lots of business owners. It's a sure sign that by spending just 60 minutes each month, drilling down into your personal spending, you'll have greater awareness of where your money is actually going. Having money goals and an awareness of how much money you're spending and on what creates better money habits, which in turn helps you manage debt levels, and that enables you to achieve your wealth goals. A personal budget also acts as an early warning system because you can anticipate upcoming costs. Having a budget is so important in regards to communication with your spouse or your partner or somebody else in your family. According to the marriage guidance experts, finance conflicts is in the top 3 most common arguments, topics of argument, along with parenting and sex. So if it's in that top 3, we really need to make sure we're covering it out. At the end of the day, if you have a budget and you use it as one of your wealth creation tools, you're going to end up with more money and arguably less conflict and stress. So if having a personal budget is such a smart thing to do, then why aren't we all doing it? So there are, these are the top 7 reasons. There are lots and lots of reasons, but the top 7 reasons why so many of us don't have a personal budget. So setting up your annual personal budget and reviewing your progress each month is not a time-consuming process. It may feel like it could be. And if you've ever tried to write one of these spreadsheets from scratch to meet your personal needs, it definitely is a time-consuming process, but it doesn't need to be. There are some simple steps that you can do to make things really easy on yourself. Firstly, you can make sure all your personal spending comes from one bank account or credit card, and try not to pay personal expenses out of business bank accounts. You will, if you're one of our clients, you will have heard us say this over and over again. Spending out of one pot makes it so much easier to track. And if you're using your business bank account as your piggy bank for your personal spending, that is something, if you stopped that, it would just make your life so much easier. So if you take one thing away from today, just pop that down on your notepad right now. Don't do any personal spending out of your business bank account. It'll make everybody's lives easier. Once you've got this sorted, you'll only have one spending source that you'll have to track. And secondly, you can get hold of a simple budget template to take the work out of setting one up, and we can provide that for you. And we'll do that at the end of this session. Alternatively, you can subscribe to some budgeting apps. There are some really great ones out there. They're always updating us. Wally, there's Good Budget. There are lots of others available to you could use on your phone. And you could even go one step further and join a specialist personal budgeting coaching program. It's not for everyone, but for those people who are really struggling with sorting out their personal finances, having a buddy system can be really good. Many people don't like the limits they feel a budget is going to place on them. They think of it as a restriction, but actually what you want to think of is this as a spending plan instead of a budget. So it should be the exact opposite of confining. It's really liberating because it results in guilt-free spending, because you know other pounds are already allocated to your expenses, so you know what you've got available to spend on those things that feel like luxuries to you. You'll no longer have the fear you might run out of money before the end of the month. And if your problem is simply that you don't know where to start, then a simple budgeting tool like the one we're going to show you in a second, and some online training is definitely your solution. There's no doubt that money can be a cause of conflict in a household. This simple fact prevents many couples from even talking about budgeting, but conflict around money doesn't resolve itself. A personal budget is one simple step you can take towards a really healthier relationship with money and therefore with your family. Budgeting can be quite scary at first. You may not want to find out the cost of your coffee habit. It can be a real shocker when you put that out over a full year. However, sticking your head in the sand isn't the answer. Knowledge is power. It's healthier to deal with the truth and move on positively, and we can really help you break through those barriers towards doing that. Pride is an issue for some of us, but don't let your financial future be harmed because of your preconceived notion about who needs a spending plan. We all do. I don't know a single person that doesn't benefit from having a plan around where their money is going to go. I totally understand how easy it is to let budgeting slide. Watching a movie sounds much more fun than doing a budget. Well, to most people. For some of us accountants, that's our idea of a fun night in. Set a monthly calendar reminder to spend an hour each month reviewing your budget and your actual spending. And what you can do is pop that into your plan. Maybe you do it 4 till 5 on a Friday afternoon, first Friday of the month, and then you know you've got something right at the start of the weekend. You can say, right, I've done my budget, I'm going to have my glass of wine, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do whatever the thing is that is your treat when you've finished your week. If you can get your budgeting done and just doing your actuals against it, it's not going to take you very long, but if you can give yourself a treat afterwards, it can really help to reinforce that habit. Understanding the benefits and building the habits are the real keys here. So the first step in personal budgeting is to set up your 12-month personal budget with income and expenses broken down on a monthly basis. This can be done in an Excel spreadsheet or by using one of the many personal budgeting apps that we've already mentioned. So the first thing you do is you enter your monthly income. Next, you enter your expenses line by line within categories so that you can see your monthly spend for each category. Seeing how much of your income needs to be allocated towards food, for example, can be really empowering. It's likely you'll have a good understanding of your monthly income from drawings from the business, wages, maybe some rental income. However, you might not fully understand the extent of what you're spending each month. And actually, for some of my business owners, even getting a handle on how much they're drawing from their business can be a real eye-opener. If you're not taking a regular salary or regular drawings, and you're just taking money when your personal bank balance gets too low, then just getting a picture of what's going on there can be very helpful. To get a better idea of how much you're spending and what you're spending it on, it's a good idea to start by analysing your personal bank accounts and your credit cards. Be prepared for a shock in some of your categories. It's always amazing when we do this with people and they come back and they say, I had no idea I was spending so much on my broadband, for example. If you would prefer to budget on a forward-facing basis, be sure to include big ticket items such as insurance if you pay that on an annual basis. Things like rates, which you often have the personal council tax type of bills over 10 months, not 12 months. And then you might have bigger things like school fees, university fees, helping a child to move into their rental property and getting that sorted out. So you want to put those into the months in which they will fall due, so you can see where those bigger chunks of spending are going to fall. When budgeting your debt repayments, this is your opportunity to plan for increases or decreases if necessary, according to cash surpluses and your wealth creation plan. Your personal budget goals may be to accumulate sufficient cash surplus to invest further in your business or perhaps in other investments. And this is your personal budget, remember, so it needs to reflect your overarching family goals. So it's a really good place to start is to think, what is it that we're trying to achieve over the next 12 months and going forward? And then how does this budget help us to achieve those goals? So this is our personal budget template. You can see it's got some nice pretty pictures. We're a big fan of visualizing our numbers So as well as having the numbers underneath, the personal budget template that we're providing has lots of visualization. It really helps people to stay engaged. And we're going to provide this to all of you today. It's really simple and easy to use. So I'll quickly run you through it using some fake data. I'm just going to switch over to an actual Excel version. So hopefully you can all see that. Richard, can you just give me a thumbs up if that's showing correctly? Yeah,
we can see it.
Okay. Good stuff. So, so this is our personal budget template. So we start off and we select the period we want to look at. So, for example, if we want a budget that's going to run to October, we're going to click into here, 31st of October, and what we'll end up with is running from November 2020 for 12 months through to October 2021. And that's going to automatically update if you see just down below. So we've now got November, December, January running across the bottom. So the next thing you're going to do is just pop your name into the box here, and then we're going to hit begin budget. And what that's done is it's brought us straight down here into our monthly income area. And the fastest way to enter your monthly income is to select the payment frequency. So let's, as an example, put in monthly business drawings. So we're going to take £5,000 a month out of our drawings, and you can see that that automatically updates across the whole of the rest of the year because we put it in as a monthly amount. So we've got £5,000 in drawings, and then we're going to also think that we're going to have dividends from the business, and that's going to just happen a couple of times in the year. So what we're going to do here is just say manually, and we'll put in £3,000 here in April, and then we'll have another £3,000 here in September. And you can see therefore that the budget can be written both on a monthly recurring basis, and it can also be done on some ad hoc payments that you might receive. So the next thing we need to do is enter our planned expenses. So expenses are listed in 9 categories, and if I just scroll down, I'll show you this a little bit bigger here. So you can see we've got household, food, apparel, children, medical, insurance, transport, lifestyle, and debt repayments. So if we start with our household expenses, once again, the fastest way to do this, if we just scroll up, and of course, if there are certain expenses that aren't applicable to you, you can just ignore that area. So the fastest way to do this is to use these frequency buttons again here. And let's just say our mortgage interest is, I don't know, £875 a month. So we can automatically put that through. And then electricity and gas down here, £145 a month. And if you were going to be looking at what you spent last year and you wanted to then mirror that out, you could just change here to using the manual drop down, and then you could put in the exact amounts as you'd expect it. Because with things like electricity and gas, we do tend to find that they go up when we're in the winter months, and they come down again in the summer. So you can make that manually reflect the way that the expenses change over time. Let's say, just to show you another option here, let's say we have a weekly cleaner. So we just change it to a weekly marker here. And then in the amount, let's say it's £50 a week. And as if by magic, the spreadsheet will work out what that will look like on a monthly basis for you. So there is no maths required here at all. You can just put it in the correct frequency for you, and it will automatically work those through. So what you can see up above here is that these amounts are creating a monthly cash summary for you. And you can also see here that you've got your annual income and you've got your annual expenses showing, but we could also just move this slider, and if we wanted to, for example, see what it's going to look like in March 21, we can see the amount of income we've put in and the amount of expenses there as well. So you can use this sliding bar to give you a picture of those different periods. The second tab you need to look at in this personal budget template, and you can see there's also an instruction sheet at the beginning, which is going to run through very much what I'm speaking about now. So if you didn't catch it all on the webinar, you can go back in and work through that instruction sheet there. So the second sheet shows you your actual performance. So it's pulled through the information from that first sheet. It's working on a month by month basis. And if we, for example, got to the end of November, we pop in and say, actually, we took £2,000 for our drawings, and we also made £50 in interest. You'll see what happens is as soon as you fill in some figures in that actual area, the budget also pulls through, and we can then see how we're doing against what we budgeted for the month. So you can see down here, those budgeted figures we just popped in, a few of them under your household expenses have already pulled through. And we could just say, actually, my gas bill was more expensive than I thought. My mortgage is as I expected it, but my cleaner didn't come because we still had lockdown. So we've got nothing in there to put against our cleaning. So over time, this will build up on a month-by-month basis, and it will show you, if I just come to the end, your year-to-date actuals against your year-to-date budget and what the variance is. So where you've either had less or more, you're going to find in the column your variances will show up here. So, for example, what we had here was an overspend shows up in red, and again, an under amount of income also shows up in red. So when it's red, you know that it's gone in the wrong direction according to your budget. And when it's green, like we've done here, we've saved some money on the cleaning, it's going to show up as a positive amount against your budget. So if after a few months you feel like your original budget isn't realistic, and if you had set your budget, let's say in January this year, I think we would have got to this point of the year and said, right, there's some big changes that have happened. A lot of people are spending an awful lot less on things like holidays, entertainment, travel, but they are spending more money perhaps on their food bills or on keeping their home warm now because they're at home a lot more than they would be usually. So we would just go in and we just alter our budget. Now, this is a personal budget. Feel free to go in and alter budgets as you want. When you're talking about business budgets, we sometimes say you set and forget, and don't forget to look at them, but you just don't go back to change them because we want to measure how we are doing against how we suggested we were going to do at the beginning of the year. But with your personal budget, a bit more free and easy, you can go in and adjust your budget when the world changes around you so that you've got something to measure against. So let's have a quick look at what a completed personal budget would look like. So here was our template. And if we just go over to an example one, so this is one I just filled a little bit more data in for, you can see you get a much prettier picture. In this particular budget, we've got some money coming in from dividends, some from drawings, and then a little bit from salary down here. And we're just looking at January for this particular person. So you can see the expenses have really built up into a very clear picture of where the majority of the money goes, which is on the household for this lady Jane, and then a little breakdown of where else she's spending, you know, how much is on transport, how much is going on the children, and a picture of what that cash surplus looks like at the end. And again, if I want to just scroll this across, you can see how those pictures might change month on month, although we've got quite a steady budget showing here. And at the bottom, you can see, if we come right down to the area at the bottom, we can see what our total expenses month on month are going to be, and what the percentage of income for each of those types of expenditure are going to be. So for example, in this budget, we've got 12% of income is going on debt repayments. It really helps us to focus our minds on, is that where we want our money to go? And should we have a look at resorting out our debts, for example, perhaps consolidation, perhaps paying down more aggressively on our credit cards, which have got a high interest rate, so that we can start to make a better long-term plan with how our money is being looked after. So you can see that's how that personal budget would look. And it doesn't take very long for us to write a budget that can start to give us this much detail. You can see over on this side with that actual performance, again, we've put some actuals in, and if we come across, we're starting to get a nice build up of where those variances are. So that's a whistle-stop tour of our budget template. And I'm just going to go across to our next slide, which is about creating an accountability framework. So there's little point in preparing a personal budget if you don't monitor your progress. Preparing the budget will be a valuable experience as you'll learn where your money actually goes. However, this is only the first step. The enduring value comes from seeing your spending habits improve and having open and comfortable discussions about where money goes and how you're achieving your personal financial goals. It's key to track your spending on a monthly basis. For some couples or families, discussions about spending and budgeting are totally normal. For others, particularly where money behaviours differ within a family, conversations about money can be more tense. And in this case, some people may consider engaging an external facilitator to sit down with you to work out your budget and to be a non-judgmental sounding board. And this can also provide independent accountability. And we do provide a personal budget coaching service to some clients where we can help you to revise your budget and then work together with you and your family in a session to remain accountable. Throughout the process, try to have some fun and bring some light to what can be a serious topic. You've got to celebrate your wins. And yes, your celebration may involve spending money, so make sure you put it into your budget. Thinking back to our thought of the day, don't hide this from your children. Let them see you set aside time to work on your budget. It's such a good thing to give as a role model for your children. Making the process seem normal and lighthearted where you can, not ominous and scary, will help your children to pick up on those great habits and to learn by watching what you do how to manage their own money as they become adults. So what are your next steps? We know that focusing on personal spending can seem confrontational to some people. You may get worried that your spouse, your partner, or your accountant is going to judge your spending. And that's really not the focus of setting a personal budget. And, we've had all sorts of conversations with people about personal budgets. Sometimes they're really emotional conversations. Sometimes we're digging into things that people haven't talked about for a long time. And we're really sensitive and aware to that. And we're very good at holding people's hands through that process. All we really want is to help you feel empowered. Your personal budget is just that, it's personal. It's yours alone. Your budget simply reflects your decisions around how you spend your earnings and how much should be left over for debt reduction, savings and investments. There's not one right answer to a personal budget. So instead of dwelling on the roadblocks, which might be time or fear or pride, remember to focus on the benefits. So that's better control, focus and awareness, improved money habits, and achieving your wealth creation goals. Focus on the benefits you seek to gain, and then take that first step of setting your annual personal budget. Use our simple tool or choose an app that works for you, whatever's going to make it easy for you to do this. Focus on the expenses you can and want to control, and get some support from us if you need help or independent accountability. So how can we help you? This is just a quick run through to let you know what services that we offer. So we can review your personal budget with you. So we'd spend an hour, we'd do it over a Zoom call, and we'd run through the personal budget that you've written. We'd help you to tweak it. We'd point out places where we think you could either focus on, or things that you may have not thought about, things that you might have dropped out of your budget, and alternatively things that you might have that you think you're overspending on. We can point you in the right direction for how to control those. We also do a personal budget review with an add-on afterwards, which is a second session, which is that coaching session. So talking about how we get better habits around money, how we get comfortable around money, and maybe involving somebody else in your family if you need to have that in a sort of non-judgmental process to help them to understand what your personal budget's all about. We also have free options. We always have these free options, and everybody's welcome to make the best use of them that they can. So we've got that personal budget template that we're going to share with you after this webinar. And we'll also absolutely free do a complimentary business meeting. If you know there's something that you need help with, but you're not quite sure where it fits in, we can do that CCR, that complimentary client review, complimentary business meeting with you, and talk through what your next steps will be from there. So have we got any questions? Richard, have you got anything that's come up in the chat?
So we have one question,
Yeah.
And it is, should I set my budget for myself or for me and my partner together?
Yeah, okay, so this is going to partly depend on how you arrange your money within your family. So I'll give you a personal example. For me, my husband and I have a joint account. So we have our own money, and then we both put an agreed amount into our joint account to spend on our food, on the house, on the kids. And then our money comes out from there. Now, in a case like ours, where a lot of the personal spend comes out of that joint account, you may want to do this as a joint personal budget. So you might want to put both of your incomes into the top lines and then spread out the expenses because you know that's how you spend. Lots of other people I know have completely separate bank accounts, and some of the family spend goes on one person's side and some of the other spend goes on the other. Or alternatively, you might be the head of your family and there isn't anybody else to share this burden with, and therefore it's absolutely your personal budget. But I think if you do feel very anxious around money, and this is a big step for you to write a personal budget, I would say write this for you personally. Just keep it to yourself to start with. It's a bit like when you've got a brand new creative idea, you just want to nurture that. And if you're afraid of sharing it with somebody who might shout it down, just grow your little budget in a nice, safe environment. Come to us, ask for some help, because we will help you to nurture that. And then when you feel like you've really written the budget that you're happy to share with your spouse or with your partner, then we'll make sure you're in a good, strong position before you go and share that out. Hopefully that's answered that question. Richard, have you got anything else that's come up?
No other questions.
Fantastic. Okie dokie. Well, I think we're just about on time, so I'm just going to leave you with this parting thought. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Wouldn't it be nice to have that feeling that you told your money where you wanted it to go, rather than it just trickling through your fingers? And that's really where I would like everybody that's managed to listen to this webinar to feel they've got to off the back of it. So what I'd ask you to do now is keep that parting thought in your mind, is to go now and write down the 3 things that you're going to do off the back of this webinar. So it's great that you've turned up. I'm so pleased that you've come to listen about this. This is your first step, but your next step is to do something with the knowledge that you've gained. So that's to download the personal budget template and to get started on it, and then think about what you're going to do next. So how are you going to keep yourself accountable to filling in that budget actual every month? How are you going to share that with your family, and how are you going to celebrate when you do hit those targets? So thank you everybody for making the time to attend this webinar. I really appreciate your time, is precious. Please do complete the brief exit survey following the session so we can continuously improve and get your feedback on what other webinar topics you'd like to see from us. I'd like to say thank you to Richard for keeping me running all the way through this and for moderating. It's so helpful to have somebody else from the team to help us out with this. We hope we've given you plenty of ideas to ponder and some clear next steps for you and for your significant others. So if you've missed any of the webinar, there will be a recording. I'll email that out to you as soon as I've pulled it down and got it ready for sharing. And thanks so much for joining us on another one of these Panthera educational webinars. Thanks, bye.